Ever since the first Final Fantasy game that came out for the series, White Mage has been virtually a staple just about almost every Final Fantasy game. Anytime this job is featured, or characters that are belonging to this job, they are pretty much the most essential, if not most reliable party members, as they keep your whole team alive. And basically, as long as you have MP for them to burn, they'll keep your party alive, healthy, and make sure you don't have to burn your items pretty quickly. So how well does White Mage perform in Final Fantasy V? Pretty much what you would expect anywhere else. Hi, I'm RotorStorm331. We're back to covering another guide today. This time we're going to be covering the White Mage and basically what you can expect from this job in terms of strengths, weaknesses, and basically its role. And we'll also be covering the spells that we'll also be using with this job. Now, in regards to White Mage is one of the 6 jobs you get starting with the Wind Crystal. After you get the Wind Crystal shards at the Wind Shrine. And basically, the White Mage is your essential healer. It can equip staffs and flails, aka maces. And basically, it's not really meant for attacking, pretty much, unfortunately. But it's also your most reliable healer in the entire game. It gets a lot access to a lot of healing spells, and it's very great to keep. Very great in any type of playthrough you go through that requires the white mage to keep you alive. Sorry if I don't talk very correctly. I'm just not very good at speaking. Pretty easy to slip up and everything. But anyway, let's go over the modifiers of the white mage real quick. The white mage has basically -7 on strength, +1 agility, no stamina gains or negatives, and 25 plus magic. So it's actually a very good, if not strong, mage in terms of magic. It does lose out to some of the other ones, like Black Mage and Summoner, in terms of having very high magic, of course. But White Mage is primarily needed to keep the party alive. It does have a few spells that can be used to attack enemies, and, well, I shouldn't say attack enemies, only one of them does, but the others can inflict status elements. It can also be used to buff and strengthen the party. And we'll go over those spells right now. Levels 1 through 6 give you access to white magic, and you won't be able to use any of the white magic until that character gets up to level 6, so that learning the spells. The final level that you get with white mage is the MP 10 plus, 10% plus. Basically, when you equip that to any other job, they'll get a 10% increase of MP. So, kind of like the monk's HP gains abilities, they have to be equipped on the jobs. They do not automatically get transferred to your freelancer mimes, unfortunately. So anyway, let's go over the spells real quick. And we'll go over them right now. Of course, for level 1, you get access to Cure, Libra, and Poisona. Cure, of course, is your standard healing spell. It's not... It eventually gets outclassed by Cura and Curaga, but it'll keep your party alive pretty much throughout the early goings until you get access to Cura. Libra is basically used to identify your enemy's status from their HP, weaknesses, and level. This is actually pretty good, but it doesn't work against all monsters. Some bosses are actually immune to this spell, so you won't be able to use it all. Of course, Libra is identical to Blue Mage's scan ability, pretty much, but scan doesn't cost anything, whereas Libra does have only 1 MP cost. Poison, of course, is used to cure poison. Technically, it's basically a spell that replaces antidote, pretty much. Your level 2 spells will consist of Silence, Protect, and Mini. Silence, of course, inflicts silence on the target that's cast, and basically what it does is silence the enemies from casting spells. This keeps your party safe from being attacked, and it cripples mage enemies pretty much. But there are some bosses earlier on in the game that are actually susceptible of silence, but because of their status as heavy types, the status doesn't stay long on them, so you have to reapply on them eventually. Protect, of course, is used to boost up physical defense for your party members, and this will reduce damage, any physical damage they would normally take. So as long as you cast it on one party member, that party member will take less damage from physical attacks rather than taking the normal full dose they would normally get hit with. Mini, of course, is a debuff spell that can be used to shrink enemies, and their attack and defense stats go down while they're shrunk, pretty much. It won't work against all enemies. As you'll progress later in the game, they'll eventually be protected against mini status, but it's good earlier on, though. With level 3 spells, you'll get access to Cura, Rise, and Confuse. Cura, of course, is a stronger version of Cure. You'll be using that more often until you get access to Cura later on in World 2. Rise, of course, allows you to basically revive party members for a cost of 29 MP. And if you're running low on Phoenix Downs and don't want to burn them, you can use this spell instead. Confuse, of course, inflicts confusion on targets. This will cause any enemy that falls into confusion to attack their own allies rather than your own party. That's good early on, but it eventually loses its potency once you get into World 3. By then, most enemies will be protected against most status ailments. White Magic level 4 will give you access to Blink, Shell, and Insua. Blink, of course, allows you to cast multiple illusions on your party members. This will protect you for a certain amount of turns. From a certain amount of attacks. Anywhere between, I think it might be 2 in this version, but it could be 3. But technically, this is very good to protect your more vulnerable party members. And they're in weaker jobs that don't have very high physical defenses, so casting Blink on them will keep them safe for the most part. Shell will reduce magical damage, and of course it boosts up magical defenses for your party members. Basically, you can do this since most warrior classes are very susceptible to magic. You can cast it on them, protect them from any of the spells they would normally get hit for less than what they would normally receive. Insua is probably one of the best white magic spells you get access to in level 4. And basically, this cures just about every status ailment with the sole exception of KO and Zombie. So basically, this is one of the few abilities that gets rid of old. And one of the earliest chances you can get this spell is during the escape from Karnak Castle. You can get this near the entrance of Karnak Castle. Just before you get out of there, you'll need to be very quick to get it because you only got 10 minutes to get out of the castle if you're playing this normally. So you're going to have to make some choices. Of course, the earliest purchase you can get Insua is pretty much at Bart's hometown, Lex. Kirga, Reflect, and Berserk are available at level 5. They'll be available at the Town of Moor before you reach the Forest of Moor. Kirga, of course, is the strongest cure magic you'll get, and you'll be using that from here on out once you get it. Reflect, of course, will help your party members protect them from spells. This will, in turn, reflect any of the spells the enemies try to cast on you, but it also acts as a double-edged sword on you as well, because this will prevent you from casting healing spells or buff spells as well. So be very careful when you use and reflect, because you want to use that to protect your party members from enemy spells, not from your own. Berserk, of course, can be used to buff your teammates to get more physical damage, but at the cost of losing the ability to take command of them. Technically, you want to use this on enemies, because that's the way that you can basically cause them to basically go into a rage, prevent them from doing any of their attacks, spells, etc. Of course, this is actually one of the few ways you can cheese your way out of Shinryu, assuming if you have the right jobs to make sure that becomes a reality. And level 6 is going to consist of Arise, Holy, and Dispel. Now, Arise and Dispel can be purchased in Phantom Village. Holy needs to be acquired through the Fort Tower, along with the Flare spell. Arise essentially revives your party members, and revives all of their HP as opposed to only some of it. Holy, of course, is the only attacking spell you actually get from for White Mage, and it deals holy base damage to any enemies it targets. Now, keep in mind, there are some enemies that will absorb holy, so be extremely wary about using the spell, but it's actually a very good spell to have in the later parts of the game. The spell, of course, removes any beneficial buffs that the enemies might receive, so casting that on them will strip them of any of their beneficial bonuses or buffs, and you'll probably use that to get rid of anything they might have. So that basically covers the White Mage and all the spells. Hopefully this will help you all out. Now, in regards to what you could combine White Mage in terms of certain abilities, since you'll probably be using that mostly for magic-based jobs, general ideal is to combine that with other jobs that'll prioritize buffing up the party or healing them. So technically, combining that with Time Mage is definitely beneficial because this job does have a few abilities that you can basically get accessibility to, such as Haste to Ga, Quick Regen, and of course the Quick Rods ability that you get for mastering this job can also be equipped on the White Mage if you don't want to have it used in Time Magic, because White Mage doesn't get access to rods unlike Black Mage, Time Mage, and Summoner. So if you want your White Mage to contribute in rod breaking, give Quick Rods to them and they'll start breaking it right off the gate. Of course, combining that with Black Mage would be very beneficial because not only will your White Mage get access to Black Magic, but they also get access to Black Mage's 31 magic stat, which will improve the potency of their healing in addition to getting access to attack spells. Now, of course, given White Mage Chemist, in particular Mix, is also another good ideal, because you can have the White Mage mix any of the items in your inventory for beneficial effects, such as buffing and whatnot, and that could also go very well with that job in particular. Red Mage, of course, has dual cast, so if your healer needs multiple spell casting, you'll definitely want to have access to dual cast and be able to heal and keep party members going as long as they can. So basically, it's definitely a good idea to have the Red Mage's dual cast for that job in particularly. And that's about all the abilities I can think of for White Mage. Of course, if you want to get it a little combat heavy, one thing you could do is give the Ninja's Throw to White Mage, and they can make full use of the elemental scrolls that you get in the game. You could basically do that as well. You can also give it access to Bard for singing if you want to have your White Mage provide support, because Bards do have some songs that provide some buffing and debuffing, in addition to some offense. So that could work just as well with White Mage if you want to use that as well. Of course, if you want, you can give Summon Magic to White Mage, and you can basically make use of Golden Phoenix for buffing and reviving party members in particular. So White Mage gets a few little caveats in general in terms of those abilities. So that's pretty much about it about White Mage in general. I hope this helps players getting into playing Final Fantasy V, especially the White Mage. Coming up next, we'll cover probably the worst job in the entire game, in my opinion, and probably everyone else's opinion, and that's the Berserker. So we're going to take a small break, and then we'll come right back to covering that job. So hang tight, we'll be right back.